Okay, so in this particular problem, something that's different than our previous ones is that there's a fraction, but the steps are the same. So, step number 1 was to get everything on one side. In order to get everything on one side, I have to move the 4 over. So I have x minus 3, or sorry, plus 3, all over x minus 2, minus 4 is greater than or equal to 0. So the first step did not change. How many got that step? Awesome. How many people at that point ran into trouble? Awesome. That's what I'm talking about. That's a clue. What do you think I probably should do now? 2 words. Two words.
Common denominator.
Common denominator. You need to have a common denominator. There are 2 fractions. So, I look at the second denominator. It's got a 1. I want to have an x minus 2. I multiply the top and the bottom by x minus 2. When I do that, my common denominator is going to be x minus 2. Right? Because both fractions now have x minus 2. Do you see it? And the first fraction never changed. So it's just x plus 3 from that fraction. The second fraction, there's a minus sign, and then it's 4 times all of that stuff. Don't forget that the minus 4 is times all of that stuff, the minus x minus 2 thing. And then, of course, you have your greater than or equal to 0. So if I was looking where stuff came from, x minus 3 came from here. And this stuff, 4 times x minus 2, is right there. And, of course, the denominator that's common is this thing. Questions so far? I probably should simplify that. So if I simplify it, on the top, I get Jimmy John's. You're a little bit ahead of me, so I don't know the answer yet. I have x plus 3 minus 4x plus 8 all over x minus 2 is greater than or equal to 0. If I simplify that, it looks like I have negative 3x plus 11 all over x minus 2 is bigger than or equal to 0. Now this is different than our 3-term or 4-term inequalities. And so what I want you to do is write yourself a note. When you're working with fractions, critical values come from what make the top 0 and what make the bottom 0. Critical values come from what make the top 0 and the bottom 0. Critical values come from what make the top 0 and the bottom 0. So let's go over here next. What makes the bottom 0?
1, 2.
I'm going to go with 2. What makes the top 0? Correct, 11 over 3. The number without the x over the number with the x, change the sign. I believe I said that earlier. And I said write it down. Those are my critical values. Questions up to that point. Critical values are what make the numerator 0, what makes the denominator 0. Next is the number line. So let's make the number line. I put my critical values on there. Uh-oh. Which one's smaller?
2.
2 is correct. And then 11/3 must be bigger because that's 3 and 2/3. So I'm going to pick some values, see what happens. I'm going to pick a number to the right of 11/3, something really huge like 10. So if I put a 10 in for the x in the brown, that's negative 30 plus 11. And all I really care about is the top's going to be negative. And if I put a 10 in for the denominator, it's going to be positive. So negative divided by positive, negative. So these numbers over here are negative.
Oh.
Let's pick a number to the left of 2. Something really easy like 0. Put in a 0 into the brown, cover up what you see with the x's, and you get 11 over negative 2, which is negative. And then we're going to gamble. And we're going to guess the middle is positive. Now you can actually check. Pick a number between 2 and 3 1/3, something really easy like 3, and you can actually prove it. But as a general rule, not always, but as a general rule, the vast majority of the time, the signs alternate. Is that always true? No. But usually in our class it will be. Probably 90% of the time. So if you have to guess, they alternate. What kind of numbers do I want?
Positive.
Positive. How'd you know? It said greater than or equal to 0. So I want the positive ones. That means I just want this region right in here.
So you want bracket 2.
So I want bracket 2, comma, 11/3 bracket. I'm sorry, that's not correct. My answer actually is going to be
No.
parentheses 2, comma, 11/3 bracket.
Why would that?
Great question. Now I need an answer for Joe's question. Why, Adam?
Because if you put in 2, the bottom would be 2 minus 2, and you can't divide by 0.
Love that kid. Good job, Adam. So you normally would have 2 brackets. That was a good answer. And I would expect pretty much everybody in here to say that. The problem is, whenever you have a fraction, you can't have a bottom on the 0. Bottom on the 0. A 0 on the bottom. So if one of those numbers that you bracketed causes a problem, you have to put a parentheses. Write yourself a note. Yes. Bless you.
Thank you.
The reason that we have a parentheses is because the 2 causes the bottom, the denominator, to be 0.